Welcome to the first annual Surf Sonic Music Awards. I just thought that since award season is coming up, people don't have enough stuff to get angry about. So why not put my thoughts out there so I can get some of the backlash? I'm not a huge fan of the nomination process. I mean, it works for the bigger shows, but for my show, I'm just gonna rank the top 3 of each category. For the 2021 Surf Sonic Music Awards, we have Best Music Videos, Best New Artist, Best Album Cover, Best Album Rollout, Worst Song of the Year, Best Song of the Year, Worst Album of the Year, then Best Album of the Year. I'll put timestamps down below if you just want to go to like a specific category. Anyway, without further ado, let's start off with Best Music Video. I love music videos, and this category was actually surprisingly hard to pick. There's just so many good music videos that have been released, but I had to make some decisions, and we're gonna start off with third place, going to Buzz Cut by Brockhampton. This music video is just this epileptic drug trip that the boys are bringing you along with. Who let the dope boys out? They filmed it in this green screen room, so basically everything except the boys is just constantly changing and shifting and weird colors and shapes. Any direction, you gave me your blessing. Texting, I text him, I told him I got him. Told him I made it to Hollywood. I really like the decision to film it in this really grainy camera filter thing. It covers up what could be not so good CGI, but also gives it a neat effect and stands out more. There's just so many crazy moments, like Joba throwing up Danny Brown. And then Danny Brown turning into this horrific monster that starts chasing after the boys. And then the outro is just amazing with Joba singing and his hair blowing in the wind. And then Merlin acting as angry as he can while rapping his part. Amazing video. Wish it could have gone higher, but we have 2 videos that are better in my opinion. And the next one is James Blake, Say What You Will. My favorite music videos are music videos that tie into the actual music and not just some random video that doesn't fit. I gave them punchlines. They gave me warning signs. The cinematography in this video is crazy good. There are some amazing shots that could work as album covers on their own, like the shot of James Blake in the swimming pool. And I'm okay. The door closing on him in the airport. I had my time on the shelf and I've been known. And just the entire scene in the theater. It's shot where James Blake is doing his performance and he is the only person watching in the crowd. And that perfectly explains what this song is and what it's going for. Basically, James Blake is having this popularity crisis where he's incredibly jealous of this more popular artist. So having himself be the only one watching, like he's realizing that he can be his greatest fan, and that's okay. And James Blake actually does pretty good acting. Like he has this scene in the car where he like freaks out. It took me aback a little bit. Psychopaths proud, at least I can see the faces of the smaller crowds. And the number 1 music video of the year for me is Family Ties by Baby Keem and Kendrick Lamar. Sure, it's not as conceptual as James Blake's video, and it's not as weird and wild as Buzz Cut, but I think this is the most clean and expertly put together music video I have seen in some time. The screen is just constantly covered with individual scenes that are thrown up every time the beat hits. Was seeing double in the projects, mad at myself, learn to put it to the side. Mama had to cater for the coupe that we rode at the school on the way to pot pies. The best part of the video is the scene with the ballerina dancers that are very reminiscent of Runaway by Kanye. It has to be a callback. My Uncle G told me that I had a chance, so then I popped out and did it again and did it again. And the colors represented on the right side is a great callback to his single album covers. Did it again,
I cannot respect them. Where did he begin? Advice from the council, let nobody in.
And then the transition is amazing when he goes back to the ballerina room.
I reach to the stars on my tippy toes. This greatest success where most niggas fold. I tell you my past, that shit don't get old.
Kendrick's contribution is amazing too. I love when he's like shooting at the camera.
Got at least one B in the oven. I'm tripping, I'm jigging, my mental is amazing, brother. Pop off only on occasions, brother.
And his dancing is so stupid that it's hilarious.
I am the Omega. PG Lane Rolling Gang, SIE, don't you address me unless it with 4 letters.
I could go on about this music video forever, but I'll stop here. This is a different type of category, but it's a huge part of music and why I love it so much, and it's album rollouts. So I'm gonna rank my 3 favorite album rollouts of this year. I'll judge an album rollout by how interesting it is and how well paced it is. In 3rd place, we have Tyrant by Slow Time.
Hey, when I made moves, I'm a money fiend.
Honestly, this album rollout is so good just because of how amazing the songs were. Feel Away was released last fall and ended up being one of my favorite songs of that year. Shortly after, NHS was released, which is another amazing song. And then finally at the very beginning of this year, we got Maza, which is one of my favorite songs of this year.
Hey, make the place look like a murder scene. Hey, when I made moves.
And then about a month later, the album was released. I thought that the pacing of this rollout was as perfect as you can get it. I was constantly hyped from the first single up until the album released. While there wasn't anything fancy going on with the rollout, this is the blueprint that you would use to release an album. The second best album rollout of 2021 is Call Me If You Get Lost, Tyler, Creator. I realize that a part of this could be completely biased, but you know, it's my video, so sorry. I've always loved Tyler's rollouts, and this one was one of his best. I absolutely love the billboards that appeared with the number on the bottom, that if you called, you got like some snippets of some songs and even some stuff that didn't even make the album. And also the little snippets they released on YouTube really got me excited.
Oh, you look malnourished. Let's get some bread, fried an egg, yolk, and drown it in syrup.
And we can't forget that Tyler released Lumberjack as a single.
500 stacks for the hood. Call me Lumberjack, cause I wish you never would.
I thought the little skit that he did was also super funny.
Are you fucking dumb?
And I always love when track lists get announced, especially with Tyler. It's interesting to see how long the project's gonna be and how many tracks, just to get like a feel for what is coming. And first place is definitely the most predictable award I am giving out in this entire show. So I'll give you 3 seconds to guess it. 3, 2, 1. It's Donda by Kanye West. This is going to go down as one of the best album rollouts of all time. In my opinion, it was amazing. Sure, it could have been handled way better. I have so many memories this summer of me waiting all night, waiting literal hours on his live streams for this thing to start. I just love how it showed the process of Kanye making this album. It really felt like we were watching a documentary about it. It started out with like 15 songs. The order was completely different than what the final version was. Some of the songs honestly sounded terrible, incomplete shells of what they would be, but at the same time you could tell that some of these songs were going to be amazing. And I will say, right after the first listening party, I told everyone I knew there was a Kanye fan that this is going to take some time because that album was not ready. And then a few weeks later, we got listening party 2, and there was a lot more songs, a lot more finished songs, and I absolutely fell in love with the album then. I actually downloaded all of the songs from the listening party onto my Spotify so I could listen to them like I was listening to the album, because I had no idea if this album would even come out. So the build-up kept on going up and up until we got to the 3rd listening party, which was gonna be huge. It's in Chicago. He's building a replica of his house. And then it was very, very disappointing. There was a lot of controversy with who he brought out on stage. A lot of the songs were changed, features were removed. And you might think, how is this your favorite album rollout if half of it sucked? But looking back on it now, knowing that we got the album and it's everything I could have wanted, it's almost nostalgic already. I will say that 3rd listening party, when he's inside the house and it's burning down, and then he comes out and Kim's there, that was like one of my favorite live events that I've ever seen.
Well, maybe it's gonna come tonight. Should've wrote them down in pen, and maybe they'll come to life.
Going along with the theme of pretty much everything besides the actual music, we're gonna do best album covers. You all know I love my album covers. The thing that pretty much got me into music, and it's definitely my favorite non-music aspect of music. And sadly, this year seemed to have a lack of interesting album covers. I mean, last year wasn't the greatest either, but we didn't have very many albums released last year. And if you compare this year to like 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016, and any other year before that, there's just not that many album covers that completely stand out. So in third place, we have Injury Reserves by the Time I Get to Phoenix. You might look at this cover and think that there's not too much going on and it's a little bland, and you might be right, but to me, it perfectly represents what this album sounds like. I love the black on the bottom transitioning into the lighter reds when it gets towards the top, and it's basically a shot of this person floating over Phoenix, or at least some city. And this figure is of course Groggs, who died last year. And I think that the glowing orb of light that is where his head is supposed to be is very thought-provoking, I guess. And a lot of interpretations could come from that. I think that it's representing how bright he was and how bright he still is after he's left the city. But I can't wait for my vinyl to come in. Hopefully we get another Injury Reserve album. In second place, we have Amine with 2.5. While I don't know how well this album is going to hold up over the next year or longer, I do know that this album cover is great. I love the plain bright yellow background and these weird 3D glass shard candy things that are on either side of him. I love his glasses and I love how distorted the picture is of him. And of course this like messy explosion coming out from where his forehead is. It's just so weird, but it's also so Amine and totally fits the sound of this album. Someday I'll get those glasses that he's wearing. And my favorite album cover of the year is James Blake's Friends That Break Your Heart. I think the color choice of this album cover totally fits the sound of the album. I also love the beige border that gives it kind of a painting look. And the fact that parts of James Blake are almost carved out of him is very representative of what this album deals with, where he's kind of slowly losing pieces of himself in his former life. I also think that the birch forest in the background is just really amazing looking. Now we have Best New Artist. I'm not a huge fan of this category in the Grammys because basically they define new as now popular, when the artist could have been releasing music 5 years before that. I'm gonna rank these artists by who I found in 2021 or started listening to heavily this year. There's going to be 5 artists in this category because I could not cut any of them. At number 5, we have Baby Keem. He's only this low because I didn't like his album as much as I do the other artists on this list, but he really had a standout year with huge features. He had Travis and Kendrick on his album and was featured on Donda as well. I do like how experimental his album was, but I think that a good chunk of those songs are just unlistenable. He definitely has a bright future ahead of him, and I can't wait to see what he does next. At number 4, we have Dijon. I've been listening to him since 2019, but I thought that his first album was amazing. I can't wait to hear what he has next, and I think he's here to stay. At number 3, we have Fushi. You might know her from her TikTok hit Deep End. Her album Time Machine was really great, and Candy Grapes is one of my favorite songs of the year so far. She definitely stands out in the crowd of bedroom pop artists. At number 2, we have Boy Life. His album was like a mix of bedroom pop and experimental hip hop. It's really strange, but it sounds amazing, and it's one of my favorite albums of the year. And at number 1, we have Maria Isabel, who still hasn't released a full album, but she has 2 EPs and a lot of great singles. I definitely recommend everyone check her out. She's going to be huge at some point. For the last 4 categories, we're going to do worst songs, worst album, and best album. Worst song of the year is a little bit strange because technically they're probably not the worst songs I heard this year, but they're the worst songs in the music that I listen to. Like, I could definitely find a radio hit that's worse than any of these songs, but I don't seek those songs, so why would I even listen to them in the first place? So these songs are all in my realm of music listening. We're gonna start off with Pink Panties by Baby Keem.
I'ma call you home when I call at night. She open the door when the nigga outside.
I cannot describe how garbage this song is. The chorus is awful. I hate the beat. Baby Keem's voice is so annoying. In my eyes, there's no redeeming qualities for this song, and honestly brought down the album a good half score for me. At number 2, we have Stupid Skit by Logic.
I'm gonna rob you, and then I'm gonna take all your money, and then I'm gonna shoot you.
No, please, no.
If you're not Kanye, you really shouldn't be doing skits. This is easily the worst skit I've ever heard. It's so unfunny, and Logic's improv is garbage. On top of that, he chose this annoying voice to use. All around garbage, and it made me hate the album even more. And at number 1, we have Way Too Sexy by Drake.
Okay, alright, that's fine. Okay.
Now, would I rather listen to this over the other two? Yes. But I'm gonna put this one at number 1 because of how popular it is. Like, enough people think that this song is good that I feel like I need to get the word out that it's not. And the fact that it's like the lead single for the album shows what Drake is going for. If enough people think that this song is bad, we won't have to hear it at parties for the next 5 years. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have the best 3 songs of the year. At number 3, we have Put On a Smile by Silk Sonic.
I'll try to put on a smile.
It is immediately catchy. The bum 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 is so uplifting.
But Lord knows I'm tired.
This song just never fails to make me happy. I think it has Bruno Mars's best singing I've heard. I don't think that there's a single thing wrong with this song. At number 2, we have Sweet I Thought You Wanted to Dance by Tyler.
Oh, you look so good, and you smell so good, and you taste so good.
I always forget that this song is 10 minutes long. It's so impressive that it's able to keep my attention for that long without even realizing it. Both instrumentals are amazing. I love the storytelling and how it acts as the heart of the album.
I want you to say you picked me with your voice. I'm 25 love, but I came by your choice. You blind to me, but that's not the point. You got me out here smoking joints.
I think Tyler really outdid himself for this one. Easily top 5 Tyler song of all time. Drum roll, please. At number 1, we have Kanye West with Come to Life.
Did those ideas ever really come to life? Make it all come to life.
Kanye looked at Ultralight Beam and said, I want to do that again. And he did. This is the best Kanye song he's released in at least 3 years, maybe even 5. I love how emotional and almost down to earth this song is.
Ever wish you had another life? Don't you wish the night would go long? I've been feeling low for so long. I ain't had a high so long.
Kanye's singing is amazing. The piano is maybe the best use of an instrument I've heard ever. It completely takes over the song. The lyrics are so personal, and it's one of the few Kanye songs that makes you realize that Kanye is just a person who has insecurities and regrets just like every other person.
Do the air that I breathe, a ultra light beam. I'm free, floating on the silver lining, floating on the silver lining.
I'm sorry, we're gonna have to go back to the negativity one more time with the worst album of the year. Similar to the worst songs of the year, I'm not gonna pick some random album that's garbage that I never really listened to. These are both albums that I sat down and listened to all the way through at least one time. At number 2, we have Culture 3, Migos. This album is just so bland. There's like maybe 2 or 3 songs that sound different than the other ones. The majority of this bloated album is just the same thing every single time. I can't even talk about this album because I don't remember anything about it. And with my worst album of the year, we have Logic with Bobby Tarantino 3. I was actually pretty excited for Logic's next album after No Pressure, but once we started hearing some singles for this album, I realized that this was gonna be like every other Logic album. The skits on this album alone bring it down a whole score. I already talked about how bad Stupid Skit is, but the opening track in Troll isn't much better. This album just feels like a slap in the face after No Pressure. All of the good production and lyricism on that album is gone and replaced with this plastic crap. Everything sounds like it was made in a factory. There's no heart and soul put into it. Just garbage all around, and Logic should have just stayed retired. And now for the grand prize, the Best Album of the Year. I have a top 5 for this category. At number 5, we have Brockhampton's Roadrunner.
Protect me from the city, couldn't save me from the world. Back then, had Jeezy on repeat, and your whip, no peace in my streets.
Definitely my favorite album in the first half of the year. Some of my favorite songs of the year on this album: Buzz Cut, What's the Occasion, When I Ball, Don't Shoot Up the Party, and both The Light and The Light Part 2. But this album does have songs that I won't really come back to, so that makes it my number 5. At number 4, we have Friends That Break Your Heart by James Blake. This album has so many amazing songs, and really only one or two that I feel like don't live up to the others. I love Famous Last Words, Life Is Not the Same, Coming Back, Frozen, I'm So Blessed Your Mind, Foot Forward, Show Me, Say What You Will, and then the last 3 songs are where the album kind of falls off for me. I just feel like James stops pushing forward and reverts back to his old mid-2010s style of song making. James isn't completely breaking the mold with this album, but he is pushing his sound forward in a new direction, while still keeping what I love about Assumed Form and some of his dance-inspired songs. At number 3, the bronze medal goes to Call Me If You Get Lost by Tyler, the Creator.
You say pandemic. Yo. Oh, you want to see a pandemic?
While it's not as good as Flower Boy or Igor, I wasn't expecting it to really be. This is kind of Tyler's victory lap in a way. It really feels like a passion project and something that he's proud to make. Some of my favorite songs of the year are on this, with Corso, What's Your Name, Lumberjack, Hot Wind Blows, Mazza, Run It Up, Sweet, I Thought You Wanted to Dance, Rise, and Safari. There are some songs that I don't really come back to as much, and that's why it's at my number 3. While I really liked Wilshire when I first heard it, if I'm not listening to the album all the way through, there's no reason to play this song, and it can get a little annoying after multiple listenings. And number 2, the silver medal goes to Donda by Kanye West.
God, please set it all right. Make it right now that it feels right. Nothing else ever feels right.
I know, you're probably expecting this to be number 1, and honestly, so was I. But there is an album ahead of it that I think is more consistent. For me, that's Donda's biggest flaw. It has a lack of consistency. With 23 songs on the original album, there's no way all of them can be perfect. But that doesn't take away at how many amazing songs are on this album. There's so many that I can't mention all of my favorites, but I will list off a few of my absolute favorites. Jail, Off the Grid, Hurricane, Praise God, Jonah, Believe What I Say, 24, Moon, Jesus Lord Part 2, Keep My Spirit Alive, No Child Left Behind, Lord I Need You, and Come to Life. Just those songs alone can make up a perfect album, but there were a few decisions with this album that I did not like the inclusion of Tell the Vision. God Breathe goes on way too long. I really dislike Okay Okay. Junya's a little uninspired, and why did he even need to make Jail Part 2? But I think that shows just how good all the other songs on this album are, and how in my book I can still classify this album as pretty much perfect with all of its flaws. He also released a deluxe version to this album, which brings up the song total to 32, but honestly these additions really did push this album up for me. Life of the Party is one of my favorite songs of the year, and also the addition of Up From the Ashes and Never Abandon Your Family are amazing for the story of this album. Also, I 100% prefer Keep My Spirit Alive Part 2. So with the deluxe and the added songs, this is one of my favorite albums in the last 5 years, let alone this year. However, there is one album that I think is better, in quotations. Honestly, this was a really hard decision, and it came down to a lot of comparisons that I don't usually like to make with albums, but these artists, they just forced my hand. They shouldn't have released this much good music this year. So, the first annual Surf Sonic Best Album of the Year award goes to, drumroll please, An Evening with Silk Sonic by Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak.
I'm hoping that you feel the way I feel, and you want me like I want you tonight, baby.
This album is 9 songs long, and nearly every single one of them is absolutely perfect. This album is just fun. It is exactly what I needed, even though I wish that this album would have come out at a better time than freaking November. It is the perfect album for 2021, and it gave me a feeling that music really hasn't given me since 2019. So for that, I applaud it. The jazz and R&B that this album pulls off is amazing. All of these songs are quote-unquote perfect in my book. This album is so consistent. Leave the Door Open flies me after last night, smoking out the window, put on a smile, 777 skate, and blast off. You can't beat that. Sure, Kanye had more than 8 songs on his album that I thought were perfect. But in my opinion, I'd rather listen to a perfect 30-minute album than a slightly less perfect an hour and 30 to an hour and 45-minute album. I literally just released a video for this album like less than a month ago, so I'm not going to go into too much about this album. I could honestly see myself jamming out to this for the next 50 years. Sure, it wears its inspirations on its sleeve, but I think that's what makes it timeless. With that, the video's over. If you made it this far, I appreciate you so much, but I would like to take a second to kind of reflect on this past year. So if you're not up for that, peace out. I'll see you later. Have a great 2022. 2021 was definitely a strange year. It was very top heavy with a lot of the stuff that was supposed to come out last year coming out this year. But for some reason, the music this year lacked a certain depth that 2020 had. There was really only about 10 albums that I thought were 8s or above. So hopefully we see a lot more artists feeling more comfortable to release music next year. I want to thank every single person who has watched one of my videos this year. I started in March, and just seeing the improvement just from those videos is amazing to me. I really do love making these videos, but without you guys, I wouldn't have the motivation to do it in the first place. So thank you so much. I hope you like this little experiment video that I'm doing. We'll see how it turns out. I'm in the middle of studying for exams, so I've literally had to do this video about 4 times, and I'm hoping to get it out before the end of the year. A like and a subscription would definitely be appreciated. If any of you guys are ever feeling lost or just need someone to talk to, my comment section is always open. I'll generally respond to every single comment that is left. So always get help if you need it. A lot more people care about you than you really know. With that, I hope everyone had an okay 2021. I really don't think anyone had a great 2021. And here's for 2022 being better. Anyway, love y'all. Peace out.